From the title of the video, you could probably assume, but I did not have a good run this last weekend. So in this video, I want to spend a couple minutes talking about, what's going on with my training, what some of the cause factors that could potentially be the reasoning of why I didn't have the best training week this week, and talk about how I can correct course and kind of how even though this last week was, disheartening and was a bit defeated, it's still like a long training session, long training period before the actual marathon. So I have plenty of time and I have plenty of motivation to get myself back on the horse and kind of finish this thing strong and get back to my goal of what I want to do. I know this won't be the most happy topic or video for the week, and especially within like the running scene on YouTube and other social medias, or like the fitness world in social media in general, a lot of the videos and a lot of the messages are very inspirational and like meant to really encourage people to push themselves as hard as possible and kind of, keep the momentum and just, fight, fight, fight kind of thing. And for the most part, I totally agree and understand why the fitness world on social media kind of sends that message out there, because, training for something like this is very hard. And if you can just keep getting the energy to get out the door and get on a run or get to the gym, it can be the difference between, skipping a run or skipping a gym session. But I also want to take a moment to acknowledge the difficulties of doing that. I think too often times we have these goals set, and if we just take one stumble, then we just throw everything out the window. Because if we stumble once, it can just easily snowball into stumbling more and more often. But I think that's very dangerous to only focus on the good parts when training for something very hard, like a marathon, or if you're training to lose weight, or whatever fitness goal you have on. If you only see other people just succeeding and achieving everything they want, it can be very disheartening for you. So this is proof to everyone who's watching me that it's not always just amazing successful training, that some weeks just are just tougher than others and you just have to push through those weeks. And suffering defeat like this does happen, but it's not the end of your goal. So let's talk about this week's run and kind of like why I feel like it was a bit of defeat overall in my training journey. Right off the bat, giving this run an overall rating, I have to give it a low, low rating, probably a 2 out of 10. If I only gave a rating about how I felt about the run or after the run, I'd probably give it even lower, like a 1 or even a 0. But I did somewhat meet a goal only because I kind of forced myself to do so and kind of ran past the time goal that I had set originally. The original goal for this run was to do a total run of 85 minutes to 90 minutes of running. And then I'd set my own personal goal of making sure I do at least 8 miles in that time allowed. That goal of running 8 miles in the 90 minutes allowed didn't seem that crazy to me, because that's easily a little bit longer than 10 minutes a mile, which I can achieve, at least what I thought I could achieve, pretty easily that week. Unfortunately, I couldn't meet that time goal, as when I hit about the halfway mark, so like 45 minutes to like an hour ish, my legs were totally spent and they felt so heavy and I couldn't keep up that pace to maintain, and I couldn't get that 8 mile goal in the time allowed. I was really unhappy with this and kind of frustrated. So I did push past that like 90-minute mark for that time goal and just made sure I ran long enough until I hit that 8 mile goal. I was accomplishing at least one of my goals this week, and since I didn't make that time one, I swore I was going to make that 8 mile distance goal this week. As far as the route that I took for this run, I started off heading towards the New York Public Library, the big old one, kind of in the middle of Manhattan. I think this building is just absolutely gorgeous, so I definitely wanted to capture it on film or on footage or whatever. So I headed it. I tried to capture it like head on, so I ran down towards it on Library Way, I think the street is called. And then once I got to the library, then I ran around it to Bryant Park area, around Bryant Park, and then headed up 6th all the way until I got to Central Park. From Central Park, then I went down west to get to the West Central Park West, that street, and just ran up all of Central Park. I didn't really have a set route for this run. There was just a few things that I definitely wanted to capture on film, so I kind of was heading to those things and then just like kind of seeing where my legs took me. But I did actually want to get some hills in for my training. So at the northwest side of Central Park, there's some pretty good hills that I wanted to hit. And after I hit those hills, then I just finished my run, just kind of like running around in Central Park. Did hit some of the reservoir. There's like a little running path around the reservoir, but it's running on gravel, so I didn't run on it for too long. I don't like running on gravel. And then I finished just about at Sheep Meadow at the bottom, so southwest side of Central Park. Sheep Meadow was closed, so I didn't get to finish my like run and stretching down there. But I just went to some open lawn area in Central Park down there on the south side and kind of just finish up with some stretches and some, mobility work just to make sure I didn't get super sore and worn out from the run. So that's all the report for this week's run. Altogether, definitely not my best, but I did want to talk about it before I got into some of the reasons of why this happened, as well as some of like the steps I'm going to take so that I don't feel so defeated after these long runs, and how I plan to move past this and kind of just get better overall training in the future because I think it's very important to me. But before we get into that, I want to take a quick detour to talk about the charity that's allowing me to run the New York City Marathon, and that's Team for Kids. Though it may seem like fitness is readily accessible, without incentive, opportunity, encouragement, and even equipment, too many people don't include health and fitness in their daily routines. Your support for Team for Kids enables children and their families to work together towards an all around healthier lifestyle. Team for Kids help provide fitness programs to children, helping them stay active, learn discipline, and live healthier lives. Your donations make these programs possible, giving kids the opportunity to thrive. Please, if you have a moment, click the link in the description to learn more. Also, you can scan the QR code that I have up on screen now. Also, if you have the opportunity and would like to, you can also follow that link and scan the QR code to contribute to the fundraising campaign I'm doing for Team for Kids. Thank you again so much for watching this video and supporting any way you can. Together, we will make a difference. So, with that out of the way, we can get back on the topic of what the video is about and talk about some of the things that were going on that I think are like causes to why this run was so particularly difficult for me. I don't want these reasons to come off as excuses. I'm just using them as a way to analyze and to look at the past week and kind of see where I might have gone wrong, what could I have done better, learning points for the next big run, or when I start seeing these patterns come up again, I can take steps to avoid this and kind of make course corrections before it becomes another problem like it did for this last run. I think the first reason of why this was such a difficult week for me to run has to be because of the temperature that it was in the city. There seemed to be a heat wave that hit most of the continental United States, at least what I've been told, but from my experience, last week in the city was awful. It was like averaging like low 90s to high 90s on a daily basis all week, and on Saturday, the day that I did this run, it was like 98 degrees. I definitely wasn't prepared for this heat, and I thought it might have a minor impact on my run, but definitely not as much as it actually did. I thought if anything, it would just make me sweat more, and then that sweat would keep me cool for the entire run. This just goes to show how important it is to keep hydrated for these longer runs, because I think this extra sweat that was caused from the heat caused me to get super dehydrated and just caused all my muscles just to get super heavy and just quit on me. I think the next big contributor for the loss of energy that I had for this last run has to do with the lack of rest I've been giving my body and the lack of overall sleep that I've been getting in the past weeks. I've always struggled with my sleeping schedule, and like a lot of you out there, being a night owl, I tend to stay up much later than I should. But the problem comes in that I'm also trying to wake up earlier to get my runs in the morning before I go to work. And I don't think these two ideas are very beneficial to each other. Staying up late and waking up early tends to be pretty rough on the body. On a normal week, I probably average about 6 to 7 hours of sleep, but on this last week, I was probably averaging only 5 hours. I usually rely on coffee or caffeine to help make up that difference, but I don't think that's completely sustainable, and I think eventually that lack of sleep is going to catch up to you. So I think this shows how important sleep is to a runner, and honestly, sleep is just important to everyone. So try to get those 8 hours. But on top of that, I haven't given my body enough rest in between runs. Either like a training run from my like training program or like a warm-up run to get my heartbeat going before I go to the weight room. I think not giving my body that rest has hurt me overall. I think I have more pain in my joints and my muscles just fatigue more often on longer runs like this. And I think it's most evident in my longer runs. Either way, I have to figure out how to get more rest into my training routine so that when I do these longer runs, I can really sell out and give it my all and not have to be slowed down by my muscle fatigue. But that's going to do it for this week's video. Thank you everyone so much for watching. Sorry this week's video was a little bit of a downer, me talking about how difficult this week's run was. But again, like I said, I think it's a very important part of the training process to acknowledge how difficult these are and how not every week isn't going to be a star-studded performance. But I don't want to focus on it for too long. I want to move past this so that I can continue to push myself and continue to push my training and eventually get to where I want to be with my marathon training, and hopefully when the marathon comes, finish with my planned goal time for that marathon. So wish me luck for future runs. But before we end this video, I want to shout out my other socials again. Macho Marathon Man, you can find me on TikTok, here on YouTube, Instagram, and Threads. Thank you again so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.